The next big MMO that everyone will be playing, much like WoW during the 2010s, won't be like any other MMO. The name of WoW Killer won't be even mentioned because it will be on a whole new dimension, and won't be anything like WoW, nor SWTOR, nor Final Fantasy XIV, nor the new League of Legends MMO Runeterra, because it won't be on the PC nor console. It will be on the VR. Wait, hear me out. I know this sounds like some kind of metaverse BS or some crypto bro trying to push some kind of cryptocurrency or NFT to make a quick buck. No, what I am talking about is more like VRCHAT.
Silence your food.
With haptic feedback, or even on the likes of Sword Art Online. A world where you can do incredible things, talk to other people, see their expressions, feel their touch and feel pain or discomfortable vibrations.
I want to feel you hit me. Oh god, that like cut my gut.
And I know what all of you are saying right now.
But Spike, the technology for that isn't even close to that.
And yes, my dear viewer, my answer to that is indeed yes, but yet it isn't that far away also. This kind of stuff, facial expression and recognition, feel of touch with hand and feeling the weight of items is already here. For example, the Oculus Quest 3. By the way guys, whenever I say in the video Oculus Quest 3, I actually mean Oculus Pro, because due to my severe stupidity, I misread the articles. So ignore that I say Oculus Quest 3 and know that it's Oculus Pro. We'll have a face tracking system. For example, whenever you open your mouth, your avatar opens his mouth. Whenever you move your eyes, your avatar moves your eyes. Just imagine all the cute girls that are playing VRCHAT making a gay face. No, that's next level of degeneracy.
But wait, there's more!
Right now you can buy a chest plate haptic system. There is a great video made by the pro gamer how much pain I can feel in VR, that shows us the possibilities of feeling touch of another person in VR is already here.
Just shoot this guy. Oh my gosh!
Of course, it isn't full body experience, but this is a big leap forward towards that direction. Also, it doesn't matter that you can be touched if you cannot do the touch.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
For the cheaper experience, there are gloves made by Haptic, which allow you to feel the vibrations in your hands when you touch something, but doesn't add weight because there is a big difference between picking up a feather and picking up a rock. The dimensions and the weight are absolutely different on the hand.
But steel's heavier than feathers.
So for that, there are VR gloves like Haptic's gloves DK2. Heck, you don't even need expensive gloves. Lucas VR Tech made haptic gloves that you can make at your own home for 60 bucks. Not counting for inflation. Heck, if you want more immersion, there are goddamn smell add-ons made by OVR that you can even smell stuff from the VR. Now imagine smelling the combined teenage angst from the virtual world. That's fucking disgusting. And the reason why I even thought of this was because of Mark Zuckerberg and his talk on the Joe Rogan podcast. Yes, I have been Joe pilled.
I am barehead clamped down on your dick and your asshole.
So have you ever done DMT?
Like all of a sudden I'd be trying to prove that I'm not crazy when I knew I wasn't crazy.
Right.
There, Zaki Waki talked about the tech he has now and how soon much of the entertainment and long-distance relationship will be solved by the metaverse he's creating. And before listening to that podcast, I thought, wow, the metaverse is such a fucking stupid idea. Like seriously, we already have VRCHAT. Facebook is just trying to save their falling asses. But then I listened to it, and I listened to the things he said, and the ideas start to flow in my head. Like, what if we could put on our VR headsets and enter a world where I could talk to other people without them knowing my life's failings, my weaknesses, my entire life? They would only see my character, which probably would be a male bulky orc, or a female night elf who ever degenerated enough to play a female character. Wait. I could talk and laugh with people I don't even know, like the good old days. Because we only knew each other of how we acted, not the mediocre and sometimes grim reality that we lived in. It would be a world where the saying, "What would you do if you didn't fear anything?" reigns supreme. It would be a world with an economy of WoW, the role-playing aspect of Final Fantasy XIV, the diversity of gameplay like SWTOR, and mount mechanics like Guild Wars 2. And the community communication of the early games in the 2010s, because it would be all proximity chat. Most important, the feeling of realness, which no game has ever succeeded to achieve so far. But mechanics and features cannot support a game alone. We all heard and seen so many games, and for that case, MMOs that advertise that they have brand new features, better mechanics than the rest. But all of them fail because just look at the latest WoW expansions with their groundbreaking features like Warfront, Island Expeditions, and Choreghast, just to name a few. And they fail because they miss one of the other pillars of a great MMORPG, and that pillar is story and the world. There needs to be a story and a world where everything would mean something. It cannot be just like, oh hey, there's orcs in this world and humans and other talking anthropomorphic creatures. I'm looking at you, para players. Because such a world without any story is just a world. It means nothing. That's why games like New World, WildStar, Terra in the West failed so quickly. Of course, there are outliers like Genshin Impact, Black Desert Online, and Lost Ark, but they are the exceptions. The history of the world and the world itself where the people live in is one of the pillars of a good MMO. Without it, the game stumbles and most likely than not fails. Because look at a game like New World and World of Warcraft. New World is based in the real war during the conquest of the New World.
Did you see what I did there?
Well, yes, it has a world and world building, but it being based in the real world, it can hamper the story of the game. Because since it is in the real world, it needs to follow certain rules of physics and the history of the world. Because while playing it, I can't really remember anybody mentioning that they are Spanish, British, Portuguese, or any other European or Atlantic power before arriving to Ethereum. But now let's look at World of Warcraft. Its story began in the 90s. 1995 to be exact, with the release of Warcraft, Orcs and Humans. The first book was released in the 2000s, Warcraft of Blood and Honor. Before the release of World of Warcraft, it had Warcraft 1, 2 and 3 as its foundation, not to name the expansions that came with the second and third Warcraft games. Hell, I'm not even done there. WoW had 4 books also standing with it before it was even released. The story and depth of the game was incredible, and it was all done before World of Warcraft was released. The other game that has a very good story and the brand standing is Final Fantasy XIV, and it is only second to WoW in player count. The only game that could really compete with WoW's world building would be a game like League of Legends, which has countless of videos, a couple of books out, and a crap ton of lore on its website, and a successful animated series Arcane. By the way, go give it a watch, it is a remarkable show. But back to the topic of the future big daddy of MMOs. The game and world will need to be in a fantasy setting where being different races would be a possibility, where gun, steel and magic would be optional types of combat, where magic would be rationalized into existence and the people could summon upon it in their time of need. And also it would need to have already existing characters that people could relate to, and when they see them in the world they could be like, holy shit, it's Mmorpg, man, holy fucking shit. But, and a big but, to make such a world takes a long time, like a very long time. It takes many books, movies / series, and heck even games to build such a world. And at the moment the only MMORPGs that are in the process and have done such things are only WoW and League of Legends. There's also Star Wars, a franchise which had 12 movies, 9 TV series, and 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 Holy shit! Almost 100 games under its belt. Heck, I'm not even talking about the countless comics that are there that are based in the Star Wars universe. But of course it stands out amongst the other games because it is a sci-fi series, while the other games are all-time fantasy where wearing armor means something and swords are usable. Of course there are franchises that have all that, and those are Harry Potter and the Lord of the Rings. Both amazing fantasy worlds, but both falling short of the moral grayness and losing side. And what I mean by that? Well, in the Lord of the Rings, the good guys usually win. It is a pure fantasy book, where the good guys win and the bad guys lose. Of course, it happens in Warcraft stories and in League of Legends stories, but there are also moments when the evil men like Garrosh from WoW gain a huge following because of his badassery, where the villains sometimes win and where everything isn't just white and black, good and evil. Things are more complex. And Harry Potter suffers even more because the main battling system is casting magic and sending monsters upon your enemies, which isn't the most diverse combat system. So we have 3 big contenders that have incredible stories and worlds that could push toward being the first truly immersive MMORPG that is in the VR. Of course, there are other great fantasy worlds like Game of Thrones, Warhammer 40k, The Witcher, Lovecraft, base horror, SCP Foundation, and etc. And as always, we cannot discount the underdogs. There might be a series that is currently rising, which has such an incredible world and such deep stories that very few of us even know. Because remember, back in 2004, there were people who said that WoW will never be a good game.
As more and more details of the game were unveiled, the initial reaction was actually uneasiness from the fans of the series. MMORPGs broke these rules. You need an active internet connection to even play it, and not only that, in addition to the game, you also needed to pay an extra monthly subscription fee. Today, this is common, but back in 2001, even computers were still pretty new to a lot of us.
But here we are in 2022, even if WoW is in a downturn and the story isn't so great right now, but its foundation is still there, and because of that, it is still pulling big numbers in the classic and retail, not to count the many private servers that are online. But there is a big problem that kind of game could face in the story department. Wokeness! Yes guys, I have been red pill. Fuck the rebel or communist agenda. Hell almighty Trump. God Emperor of mankind. Jesus was Lithuanian. Sorry, I had a slip of the tongue. What I mean by wokeness is the storytellers will be afraid to approach certain topics due to politics, like xenophobia, the fear of the other, suicide and self-harm, because when it's portrayed in the media there is an increase of suicides and self-harm worldwide, abuse and rape of innocents, genocide and cruelty of other people and species, sexism and racism. A fantasy world without this cannot be related to on a primordial essence of our being. We each know that there is great evil and suffering in this world, and probably other worlds, because hardship and suffering is a building block of reality. All beings strive to survive, and usually survival includes the consumption of energy, which is usually very plentiful in living beings. And since most, if not all, living organisms have pain receptors, life includes pain and suffering. And sadly, the American left, which is the loudest and far-reaching, is trying to hide it away, trying to say that it is okay to be obese because it is beautiful. It is okay only to care about yourself and be a narcissist. It is okay to try to change the environment rather than solving issues that a person has within himself, herself. That it is okay to push your agenda upon others because they do not know better. But the road that they are building is built to make weak people. And with that, weak stories, which cannot be related to fully. Because most of us have faced bullying, hate, violence, and the grim reality of death. And stories need not be afraid to approach these topics. They need to be free to show all the sides. They need to show the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because I felt more attuned with the story when it showed conflict rather than just trying to shush it down and resolve it the easy way out. A good example of that is in WoW during the Cataclysm, when Sylvanas Windrunner started to raise new Forsaken, and Garrosh saw what she was doing, and compared her to Artis Menethil, the mother effing Lich King, a man who was a complete egotistical maniac and who tried to kill everyone and raise them to be undead and under his will. And then when she tried to explain herself that she was doing this for the faction, he called her a bitch.
Watch your clever mouth, bitch.
And the sad part is they removed that part. Like seriously, Gareth was the kind of man who did not care. He felt like a real person and not just some character in a story.
I will destroy everything you have ever loved, bitch.
What?
Which makes it sad that Blizz decided to remove that part because it was too rude and sexist. Garrosh was the real man who stood by his decisions and never backed down to anyone, be it male or female. And for that, he is the real warchief of the Horde. And anyone who agrees with that statement, write down in the comments. Garrosh did nothing wrong and he is the real warchief of the Horde. Anyways, nowadays that shit wouldn't pass. Heck, Blizz removed semi-erotic pictures of women in paintings in the world and changed them with fucking fruit. Fucking fruits! Like, I understand Blizz is trying to appeal to the female audience, but by doing so you alienate the rest of the community. Rather than adding onto the world, they try to remove to make space for the wokeness of modern times, which is an absurdity and a passing phase, like any other things that have in time. But not only that, when you're trying to desexualize women, you're also depowering them because you're taking away one of their tools which they can use.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
Like, look at OnlyFans. So many people were able to monetize their bodies and their form and to earn a crap ton of money. So more power to them. And while yes, some men enjoy watching those damn portraits of semi-sexualized women, well, but it is in the same lines of absurdity as the KKK saying that all black men are gang members and gangbangers. Because yes, some of them are, but overall it is a small percent and not the entire black society. The only games that don't have this problem or that are made by the Japanese or Eastern Europeans, for example the VRCHAT.
Among Us.
And Final Fantasy XIV. And because those cultures have a strong conservative storytelling and don't let in Western ideology, which rather than making a story deeper and stronger makes it shallow, political and weaker. Like for example, Final Fantasy XIV isn't afraid of talking down to people. It lets its characters express themselves. And they even have a fucking goddamn boob slider. Blizz, wake up! I want to make a big titty white elf goth girl. Final Fantasy XIV doesn't steer away from the ugly side of the world where things can be grim and even terrible. Like I remember when in a realm reborn, the Emperors attacked the hideout of the Science of the Seventh Dawn. They captured many of my comrades in the story and killed the others. Heck, they even killed the cutest creature ever, Noraxia. I was in freaking shock when I saw what happened. No. Hey. Hey. No. 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 That was one of the only moments where I almost had an emotional breakdown while playing a game. And that crap happens to me very rarely. And the funniest part of all of that, I wasn't even emotionally invested in Noraxia. She was just a character that I thought was cute, but her sacrifice and actions before her death made me want to sympathize with her. And I had never done that in an MMO. Heck, never in my 10 years of playing WoW have I ever felt like that during the story. A good story is when it stands on the fundamentals of reality. That it is dark, it is bright, it is colorful, it is diverse, and it's full of conflict, interest, and suffering, much like the story of Final Fantasy XIV. And wokeness, unlike its father Enlightenment, doesn't understand it. It tries to emulate enlightened ideas with weak execution, which never ever will be on par with a real thing. And here we come to my own personal preference in the future VR MMORPG. I would like the future VR internal brain chip, SEO game, whatever you like to call it, to have the ability to change the style of the game. And by that I mean that you would have a choice of what kind of graphics you want. Do you want more cartoony and stylized game like WoW? Well, we have an option for that. Do you want a more JRPG? We have an option for that. Do you want something more realistic? We have an option for that. And I know the amount of resources that kind of would require would be incredible, but that would be a nice touch. And we must admit that this kind of MMO has a lot of challenges in front of it, like the cost of acquiring the equipment to play the game. Like, I think a wearable system would be incredibly big and humongous and heavy if it had all the specs and computing power to compute the game on its hardware. So not only you will need to have an Oculus or any other VR headset, but also a good enough PC to run the game. The cost of haptic feedback suits and gloves are also not cheap. All the equipment would cost $5,000 at minimum. And not to start with the addictive essence of such a MMO, because we all can remember the countless articles and news feeds when WoW came out and how many people got hooked on it. An MMO of such immersive quality would probably ruin many families and lives, but as a supporter of individuals' rights to choose, I say let them. And lastly, the game would be incredibly expensive to make, because not only does it have to have the normal types of developers, artists, sound engineers and so forth, but also people who know how to make VR environments, feedback system engineers, bug fixers who know how to fix VR games, and many more. Such a game would require immense capital to produce and immense funds to keep alive through patch cycles and expansions. It would probably cost $100 up front, have a monthly subscription service that costs up to €15 a month, and dreaded microtransactions so the producers could keep the game afloat and pay those who make it enough so they would be willing to keep making new and more fun content. So here's my conclusion. The next big MMORPG won't be any WoW expansion or WoW killer. It won't be the world of Runeterra, nor will it be Ashes of Creation. But it will be on the VR, with haptic feedback systems, Oculus Quest 3, which Meta offers, and probably created by a company in Japan or Eastern Europe where the American political left wokeness hasn't yet settled. It will have facial recognition and display your emotions to other players in the game, and you will be able to feel some sort of pain or discomfortable vibrations that are scalable, and the story of the world will be taken from one of the larger stories that are built and most like Warhammer 40k, The Witcher, Game of Thrones, Final Fantasy XIV or Warcraft. Bliss is willing to make WoW 2 Electric Boogaloo. And yes, it will be expensive to have all the equipment and also the added cost of the game itself. But a well like asmongold probably wouldn't even bat an eye to spend $10k to play such a game and advertise it to his massive audience. Of course, there will be massive backlashes from the mainstream media saying that
it is ruining the current generation.
But crap like that has been spewed by it for thousands of years on any new kind of media. All in all, I can't wait to see the next gen of MMOs to come out. So tell me in the comments, what other things does a VR MMORPG need to have to be the next big MMO? If you liked this video, don't forget to drop a like, and if you wish to see more content like this, subscribe. Until next time, see ya!